If you're honest with yourself, you've known something wasn't right for a long time. Not in a dramatic way, not in a crisis kind of way, just a quiet feeling that life keeps moving, but you aren't. You didn't collapse, you didn't burn out, you just kept waiting. Waiting for the right time, waiting for clarity, waiting for confidence, waiting for things to make sense. And that's the part nobody talks about. Because you didn't fail with money, you were trained to wait. Chapter 1. Why waiting feels responsible. Waiting doesn't feel like a mistake, it feels mature. Responsible people wait, smart people wait, careful people wait. You were told that patience is a virtue, that rushing is reckless, that stability is wisdom. So when something feels uncomfortable, you don't ask, is this wrong? You ask, can I endure this a little longer? And endurance slowly replaces intention. You don't decide, you delay. Not because you're afraid, but because waiting feels like the right thing to do. That's the first layer of conditioning. Chapter 2. How waiting was installed. You weren't born waiting, you learned it. You learned it in school, where obedience was rewarded more than curiosity. You learned it at work, where promotions came to those who didn't rock the boat. You learned it from money itself, where security was praised and risk was framed as irresponsibility. Everywhere you looked, the message was consistent. If you're unsure, wait. So you did. You waited for permission. You waited for validation. You waited for guarantees. And over time, waiting stopped being a choice. It became a reflex. Chapter 3. The hidden cost of not yet. Waiting doesn't look dangerous. That's why it's powerful. It doesn't take something from you all at once. It takes it slowly. 1 year where you say, not yet. Another year where you say, soon. Another year where life feels busy enough to postpone the hard questions. And suddenly, a decade passed. Not because you chose the wrong path, but because you never chose at all. Waiting cost you momentum, confidence, and optionality. But it disguises itself as patience, and patience is hard to argue against. Chapter 4. Why money reinforces waiting. Money plays a very specific role here. Your income doesn't crush you, it stabilizes you. It pays your bills just enough, it funds your lifestyle just enough, it reduces urgency just enough. Not enough freedom to explore, not enough pain to escape. So waiting feels justified. You tell yourself, I'll make the move when I earn more. I'll decide after I save more. I'll act when I'm more ready. But readiness never arrives. Inside a system that rewards hesitation, money doesn't just fund your life, it conditions your behavior. Chapter 5. Why hard work doesn't break the pattern. At some point, frustration shows up, and the solution offered is always the same. Work harder. So you do. You upgrade your skills, you take on more responsibility, you become more competent. But competence without autonomy just makes you better at waiting. You're now more valuable, more relied upon, and more embedded, which makes leaving feel riskier than before. Hard work doesn't free you when it's rewarded with deeper dependence. It trains you to endure longer. Chapter 6. The moment waiting becomes identity. This is the most dangerous phase, when waiting stops being something you do and becomes who you are. You start saying things like, I'm just being realistic. I don't want to make a mistake. Others have it worse. I'm not the type to gamble. You mistake caution for character, and now even imagining a different life feels uncomfortable. Not because it's impossible, but because it violates the identity you've built. Waiting has become your safe place. Chapter 7. The difference between patience and delay. Here's the distinction nobody teaches. Patience moves towards something. Delay avoids deciding. Patience has direction. Delay has justification. Patience costs discomfort now for growth later. Delay costs growth to avoid discomfort now. Most people aren't patient, they're delaying. And the longer you delay, the harder it becomes to remember what you were even waiting for. Chapter 8. Why some people live quietly. People who escape don't do it dramatically. They don't wake up overnight. They start waiting in small ways. They reduce dependence before increasing ambition, separate survival from experimentation, build skills that don't require permission, and create time before chasing money. They don't wait to feel ready. They move while uncertain, not recklessly, but intentionally. They understand something crucial. Waiting is safest only when nothing changes. Chapter 9: How to Stop Waiting Without Burning Your Life Down. This isn't about quitting tomorrow, it's about interrupting the pattern. Start by noticing where you delay decisions you already understand, where you say later to avoid discomfort, and where money dictates your confidence. Then do the opposite, quietly. Reduce fixed obligations, create small asymmetric risks, build optional income, not just higher income. Practice choosing without permission. You don't need a breakthrough, you need a shift in behavior. Because waiting is a habit, and habits can be unlearned. Final truth: the money mirror. You didn't fail with money, you were trained to wait. Waiting was framed as wisdom, stability was framed as safety, delay was framed as responsibility. And over time, you internalized it, not because you were weak, but because the system rewarded it. If you want to understand how money shapes behavior, how dependency is created quietly, and how to build leverage without panic or fantasy, you can explore the Money Mirror Playbook, link in the description. Because the real trap was never poverty, it was patience without direction. The mirror never lies. The question is, now that you see the pattern, will you keep waiting or finally decide?